My name is Avery Hart. I'm 34 and last Christmas, I realized my family had been buying my silence for decades. My sister got a brand new white BMW with a bow the size of my shame. I got a plastic piggy bank from a discount store with two $1 bills inside and a note that said for your future. Their laughter echoed while something inside me snapped like ice underfoot. I left the house before sunrise, keys on the counter. But what they didn't know was I'd stopped being their daughter that night. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by family. Because what happened next wasn't just about a car or a cheap gift, it was about 34 years of quiet favoritism and the moment I finally decided to stop playing the good daughter. I grew up in a two-story house on the edge of Portland, the kind that looked perfect from the street, white porch-trimmed hedges, the faint smell of my mother's potpourri drifting through the windows. From the outside, we were the picture of stability. Inside, there was a quiet system of weights and measures, and I was always the counterbalance to someone else's need. My sister Sloane arrived 2 years after me, all curls and laughter and easy charm. People used to say we were lucky, one brain, one beauty. What they didn't see was how early those roles calcified into chains. Dad would beam when Sloane performed her shows in the living room, dancing to whatever pop song was blaring on TV while I sat with a sketchbook on my knees drawing bridges and buildings. "Don't be so serious, Avery," he'd say, clinking his glass against the coffee table. "You'll wrinkle before 20. At dinner, Mom would slide the last chicken thigh onto Sloane's plate. "She needs the protein. She's growing," she'd say, as if I wasn't. When I reached for it once, Dad raised an eyebrow, the kind that froze me midair. So I took mashed potatoes, instead swallowing the burn behind my ribs. When I was 10, I built a model bridge out of popsicle sticks for the school fair. I won first place. Mom snapped one photo out of focus before rushing home to help Sloane rehearse her dance routine for the local pageant. That night, Sloane's trophy stood on the mantel. Mine stayed in my backpack for weeks until I finally tucked it in a drawer. I didn't know it then, but that drawer would become a graveyard for every small victory I tried to share. Our birthdays told the story better than words ever could. Sloane's 7th was an explosion of pink balloons, rented ponies, and a photographer hired just to capture the memories. Mine the next year was held at home, a grocery store cake that said "Happy Birthday, Avery" in blue icing that stained my teeth. "You don't like crowds," Mom said, slicing me a small corner piece. I didn't correct her. I just learned to eat quickly before the candles melted down too far. In high school, I discovered math could explain what people refused to: ratios, formulas, balance. If you apply enough pressure to one side of an equation, the other side collapses. I thought if I worked hard enough, I could balance our family too. Sloane joined cheerleading. I joined the debate team. She got new shoes every season for the routines. I got hand-me-down sneakers because nobody notices those things at a podium. The night I was named valedictorian, my parents' seats were empty. Sloane's soccer team had an away game. "We'll watch the recording," Mom said later, and handed me a blank VHS tape that never got used. I graduated early from college, full scholarships, part-time jobs, caffeine, and stubbornness, but when I called to tell them, Dad's first response was, "That's good, honey. Maybe help your sister figure out her major next semester. She's still searching." Searching. That was the word they used to excuse her drifting. "You're so grounded, Avery," they'd tell me, as if being stable meant I didn't need to be loved. During one summer, I worked double shifts at a campus bookstore and a coffee shop. I saved every dollar, sent home a check to help with house repairs. Months later, I learned the money went toward Sloane's art trip to Europe. She needed the experience. Mom said, her voice soft but her eyes unflinching. "You'll understand when you have kids." That night, I sat under the buzzing dorm light and wrote in my planner, "Stop sending money home." I didn't, though. Not yet. By my late 20s, I'd built a quiet life in Seattle, an apartment that smelled like coffee and rain, a reliable Toyota, a stack of degrees that didn't impress anyone but me. Each holiday, I drove 7 hours south through mountain passes to the same living room, same rules, same stage. Every visit was a rerun where Sloane starred, and I was the audience. I remember one Thanksgiving when Dad carved the turkey and said, "We're thankful for Sloane's new clients finally making something of that degree." He didn't mention my promotion to project lead, though I'd emailed him the company press release 2 weeks earlier. Mom squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "You know, he's just proud in his own way." I smiled like it didn't matter, but my jaw ached from the effort. By the time I hit 34, I was running on quiet resignation. I wrapped their gifts with precision: a leather briefcase for Dad, a silver bracelet. Mom had admired in a store window a high-end camera lens for Sloane because she'd said her content needed an upgrade. I thought maybe, just maybe, this Christmas would be different. But standing there that morning watching the red bow gleam under the tree lights, I realized nothing had changed. They still didn't see me. Maybe they never would. I didn't know it back then, but the moment I closed that door and stepped into the snow, I wasn't just leaving home. I was walking into the first honest chapter of my life. The drive that Christmas morning still plays in my head like an old cassette, snow hitting the windshield in sharp, steady beats. Bing Crosby crooning through static. My hands gripping the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles went pale. I'd left the house at 3:42 a.m., the sky bruised purple, the world half asleep. My suitcase rattled in the back seat holding nothing but essentials, jeans, a sweater, a faded stuffed bear my grandmother had given me. Everything else stayed behind, the gifts I'd bought, the years of effort, the version of me that thought love could be earned. Halfway down I-5 my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Did you remember to pay the electric bill for the cabin? Not. Are you safe? Not. Please come home. I stared at the glowing screen until tears blurred the words. My Toyota shuddered against a gust of wind, and I realized my body was shaking too, not from cold, but from 34 years of swallowed anger finally thawing. I stopped at a roadside diner outside Eugene just as dawn broke. The neon sign blinked open in tired red letters. Inside it smelled like bacon grease and burnt coffee. An older waitress with silver streaks in her hair slid me a mug before I even ordered. Rough night, she asked. Rough life, I muttered before I could stop myself. She didn't flinch. Family or love family? She nodded like she already knew. Honey, blood makes you related. Respect makes you family. Her name tag said D. I never forgot it. That sentence sank into me like a seed. I didn't know it then, but it would grow roots in every choice I made after. By the time I reached San Francisco, my phone showed 17 missed calls, mostly from Mom, a few from Dad, one from Sloan with a heart emoji, and please don't be dramatic. I turned off notifications. The silence felt holy. Maya Chen, my college roommate and the closest thing I had to a sister, opened her apartment door in sweats and disbelief. You actually did it, she whispered. Did what left? I shrugged, too exhausted to find bigger words. Yeah. She handed me a mug of coffee. Then start over here. Stay as long as you need. For the first time in years, someone offered me something without strings. I didn't know how to accept kindness that wasn't transactional. The weeks that followed blurred together, sleeping in Maya's spare room, rewriting the same transfer email to my company's San Francisco office, starting therapy with Dr. Ruth Kaplan because Maya wouldn't drop it. You're not broken, Dr. Kaplan said during our first session. You're just tired of being unseen. Her office smelled like lemon polish and quiet safety. I told her about the birthdays, the graduations, the invisible ledger of affection in my family. She listened, pinned still. When I finally said the word favoritism, it felt like biting into glass. She asked, what did that favoritism teach you about yourself? That love has conditions, I said, and that I had to earn it. She leaned forward. And what if that was a lie? That question haunted me. It followed me to my new job when Mr. Whitaker approved my transfer based on my track record. It followed me to my tiny Mission District apartment with west-facing windows and hardwood floors that creaked like an old heart. It followed me to pottery class where I shaped lopsided bowls with trembling hands and felt something shift when the clay finally obeyed. 3 months later, I stood in my new living room surrounded by boxes and sunlight, realizing that no one had ever taught me what peace sounded like. It was quiet, uneasy at first, then clean. Still, sometimes at night, I'd wake from dreams of Sloane's laughter echoing down the stairs or Mom's soft voice saying, "You're fine, Avery, you've always been fine." I'd sit up, heart pounding, whispering to the dark, "Not anymore." I didn't know it yet, but peace doesn't come free. The price would arrive soon, wrapped not in ribbons but in rumors, manipulation, and a wedding invitation that would pull me right back into the house I'd escaped. The first message came 2 weeks after I settled into my new apartment, a voicemail from Dad. His tone was clipped, rehearsed. "Avery, if you don't return the car by Friday, I'll have to report it stolen. You can't just take property that isn't yours." I listened twice, unable to process what I was hearing. The Toyota was mine. Paid off in full, title under my name. I even had the receipt from the final payment 3 years ago. But that was Dad's specialty, twisting facts until guilt replaced logic. I saved the voicemail, labeling it proof. I didn't know yet how useful it would become. Mom's messages followed, dripping sugar. "My blood pressure's through the roof, honey. Your father's worried sick. Please just call us." Then quieter, "You're breaking his heart." I could almost see her, one hand pressed to her chest, eyes damp but carefully dry for the camera. Manipulation had a rhythm in our house. Guilt was the melody. The next blow came from Sloane's Instagram. I wasn't following her, but Maya was, and she showed me the post one morning. A photo of Sloan with puffy eyes, hands clasped in mock prayer. The caption, "Family is everything." Some of us forget that. Pray for those who've lost their way. It had 500 likes. Comments full of sympathy. Stay strong, girl. Family always tests us. Hope your sister gets help. Help. The word curdled in my stomach. I'd left to survive, not to fall apart. But the narrative was already spreading. At work, whispers started, subtle but sharp. Someone had sent an anonymous email to HR, suggesting I was emotionally unstable and under investigation for theft. My manager, Mr. Whitaker, called me into his office. "Avery, this is obviously nonsense," he said, sliding me a copy. "But we have to log it." I scanned the email header and felt my pulse spike. The metadata showed an IP address from Portland. I forced a smile. Understood. Back home, I called Dr. Kaplan. "What do you do when your family tries to destroy your reputation?" She answered simply, "You collect receipts, not revenge." Yet. So I did. I saved voicemails, screenshots, timestamps. I learned to speak calmly at work while my insides burned. Ethan, the environmental engineer assigned to my project, noticed. He wasn't intrusive, just steady. "You okay?" he'd ask during late-night design sessions. "I'm fine." He didn't press. Just refilled my coffee and left silence open like a door. That silence became its own kind of therapy. One evening, I got a LinkedIn message from a former coworker in Seattle. "Hey, your mom reached out. Said you're taking time off for mental health. Everything okay?" I almost laughed. My mother had created an entire PR campaign around my supposed breakdown. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred, then typed back, "Everything's fine, just relocating." That night, I sat on the floor, surrounded by open boxes and memories. I picked up the plastic piggy bank, the same one from Christmas. Its cheap pink paint was chipped around the snout. I pried out the rubber stopper and dropped in a crisp $2 bill. The sound it made, small, hollow, final, felt like a heartbeat. 1 week of freedom, one symbol of worth. Every Friday after that, I added another $2 bill. A ritual, a quiet rebellion. But peace doesn't last when you're the family scapegoat. In late spring, a white envelope slid under my apartment door. My cousin Lauren's wedding invitation. The handwriting looped, elegant, unmistakably Mom's. Under guest of honor, the Hart family, my name stood separate, unaccompanied. No, +1. Just me. Maya leaned over my shoulder. "You're not seriously thinking of going, right?" "I don't know," I said. "It's family," she snorted. "So is gangrene." I laughed for the first time in weeks, but the truth gnawed at me. Part of me still wanted closure. Part of me wanted to be seen. Then 3 days later, Lauren accidentally sent a group email with the wedding seating chart attached. My name sat right between Richard Hart and Elaine Hart, directly across from Sloan Hart. My phone buzzed before I could even finish scrolling. "Sloan, can't wait to see you. We need sister time." Before the madness, I stared at the message. It sounded like bait. At therapy that week, Dr. Kaplan said, "They're setting the stage. Don't walk in without your armor." "What armor?" "The truth," she said. "And boundaries that don't bend." I left her office that day with a strange clarity. They wanted a performance. I'd give them documentation instead. The next evening, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, surrounded by folders, bank statements, tuition receipts, birthday photos. The patterns were undeniable. My student loans totaling $67,000. Sloane's fully paid tuition plus her creative sabbatical in Europe funded by the inheritance Grandma left both of us. Except my share had mysteriously vanished from the family account the same month Dad upgraded his car. My breath slowed. My fingers shook. This wasn't neglect. It was theft disguised as love. Maya found me at midnight, still at the table, eyes red, papers everywhere. "You're building a case," she said softly. "I'm building a mirror," I replied, "so they can finally see themselves." What I didn't know was that mirror would soon reflect more than I ever expected, because someone else had been watching and they weren't done yet. A week before the wedding, the phone calls began again. This time they came in clusters, midnight, dawn, lunch hour. When I didn't answer, they left messages like stacked bricks, each heavier than the last. Dad's voice was the same brand of cold authority I'd known all my life. "You're overreacting, Avery. We did what any responsible parents would do. Sloan needed help, she's fragile." He paused, then added, "Unlike you. Unlike you." 2 words that had defined our dynamic since birth. Then Mom's message followed, trembling and theatrical. "Your father's health isn't good. Every time the phone rings, his blood pressure spikes. Do you really want that on your conscience?" I replayed that one in the dark, listening to my own heartbeat drown hers out. It wasn't concern. It It was choreography. Every phrase perfectly designed to guilt me back into compliance. 2 days later, something strange happened at work. The IT department called me in. There's been a second anonymous email, the technician said, looking uneasy. Same allegations, different address. I scanned the printout. The grammar was too familiar. The phrasing too precise. It used my mother's favorite lines: Avery means well, but she bottles up everything and then she explodes. The header traced back to a shared iPad registered to Elaine Hart. For a moment, the room tilted. My mother, the woman who taught Sunday school who cried at charity commercials, had been trying to sabotage my career. Do you want us to investigate further? IT asked. Yes, I said, voice flat as steel. Quietly. That night I played her old voicemail, the one where she begged me to call to stop hurting the family. Then I played Dad's thread about reporting my car stolen. I saved both as audio files. My little digital truths. Ethan noticed the change before anyone else. We were finalizing a design proposal in the conference room when he leaned back, watching me carefully. You've been quieter lately, he said. I shrugged, learning when silence says more than words. He nodded like he understood. Sometimes silence is a plan. I didn't answer, but a small knowing smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. That weekend, the sky over San Francisco turned the color of pewter, heavy with fog. I sat cross-legged on the hardwood floor, my laptop glowing in the dim light. One by one, I arranged the files: birthday photos, receipts, the HELOC document that showed my parents had borrowed against their house to buy Sloane's BMW. My cursor hovered over the folder name. I typed the cost of love. When I hit save, the sound of the mouse click felt like a gavel. But even justice has timing, and I wasn't ready to strike yet. Not until I understood what they truly wanted. On Tuesday, my cousin Lauren called. Her voice was tight with nerves. Hey Avery. Weird question. But did you get my seating chart email? I did. Good. Because Aunt Elaine asked if I could move you closer to the family table. She said she thought you'd want to be near them. I stared at the skyline outside my window, bridges I'd helped design standing strong against the fog. Tell her I'm fine where I am. Silence on the line. Then Lauren whispered, I think something's going on. Your dad lost his job 3 months ago. They didn't want anyone to know. I felt the world tilt again, but this time differently. A secret fissure running through their perfect facade. Thanks, Lauren, I said softly. See you at the wedding. After the call, I sat by the window for a long time, the city lights flickering like Morse code. Maybe that's why they were desperate: money, running out, pride unraveling. Maybe this wasn't just guilt anymore. It was survival. I picked up the piggy bank from my shelf, shook it gently, listening to the clink of bills inside. 26 weeks of freedom. $13 of self-worth. Dr. Kaplan's words came back to me. You collect receipts, not revenge, until the day they meet. That day was coming. The invitation sat on my counter, its gold lettering glinting under the lamp like a challenge. Willowcrest Manor, July 14. I traced the embossed date with my thumb, then whispered to the empty room. Let's finish what they started. What I didn't know then was that the wedding wouldn't just reopen old wounds, it would expose everything they'd built on lies. The air inside Willowcrest Manor was thick with perfume, champagne, and performance. Strings played in the foyer while cousins clinked glasses and traded gossip disguised as compliments. My heels clicked against marble as I entered, each step echoing like a countdown. I hadn't seen my family in 7 months, but the moment their heads turned, time folded in on itself. Dad stood near the fireplace, bourbon in hand, his face ruddy and tired. Mom hovered beside him, her smile stretched too thin to be convincing. And Sloane, my sister, my shadow, my foil, glided across the room in a satin dress that shimmered like armor. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Avery, she breathed, pulling me into an embrace that felt more like a performance for the crowd. You look amazing. Thanks, I said, stepping back. You look expensive. Her smile flickered. From the corner, I caught Lauren's nervous wave. Family meeting in the library, she mouthed. Of course. They couldn't resist drama behind closed doors. The library smelled of old paper and secrets. Mahogany shelves loomed overhead, filled with books no one had ever read. Dad was already pacing. Mom sat stiffly in an armchair, tissue in hand. Sloane lingered by the window, her reflection fractured by the glass panes. I shut the door softly. Let's get this over with. Dad gestured to the chair across from them. Sit down, Avery. I'll stand. He exhaled sharply. This family is falling apart because of your stubbornness. Your mother's been sick with worry. I've lost sleep, and Sloane got a BMW she couldn't afford. I cut in. Funny how that part never makes the speech. Mom's voice trembled. That car was a gift bought with a loan against your house, I said, tossing a folder onto the table. The documents fanned out bank statements, HELOC details, transfer records. You leveraged your future for her image. Dad's face drained of color. Where did you? You taught me to keep records, I said evenly. Guess I learned well. Sloan turned eyes wide. Wait, what you said it was a work bonus? Dad barked. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time, I said, my voice sharp enough to cut through the tension. Because for once you don't get to narrate. I pulled out another folder. Photos from birthdays, graduations, holidays. 2 columns, hers and mine. One bursting with parties, ribbons, and smiles. The other me, smaller, quieter, cropped out. Favoritism isn't love. It's strategy. You made me the responsible one so you could neglect me without guilt. Mom's mascara ran, but the tears were dry. We did our best. No, I said softly. You did what was easy. Then I placed my phone on the table. One tap, and Dad's voice filled the room. If you don't return the car, I'll report it stolen. His words echoed off the bookshelves. Sloane's jaw dropped. Mom whispered, you recorded us. You made me invisible, I said. I had to prove I existed. The silence that followed was unbearable, like the air itself refused to move. Finally, I reached into my bag and placed the pink piggy bank on the table. The same one from Christmas. It looked absurd against the polished wood. I opened the stopper. Dozens of crisp $2 bills spilled out, scattering like confetti across the family documents. For every week I've been free, I said. Each bill is worth more than your approval. Mom covered her mouth. Dad stared at the pile as if it were something radioactive. I'm not here for apologies, I continued. I'm here for terms. Family therapy with Dr. Kaplan, 6 months minimum, and you respect my boundaries, no surprise. Visits, no midnight calls, no emotional ransom. Do that and maybe we'll talk. Dad opened his mouth to argue, but Mom's hand gripped his arm. We'll do it, she whispered. I nodded once, gathering my folders. The piggy bank stayed on the table. Keep it. A reminder of what happens when love comes with receipts. As I reached the door, Sloane's voice cracked behind me. Avery, you're different. I looked back just long enough to meet her eyes. I finally am. The reception that night blurred into a glittering haze of laughter and champagne flutes, but I stayed on the terrace, the cool air slicing through my dress. Inside, music swelled, another family pretending everything was fine. Through the glass doors, I saw my parents sitting close, whispering urgently. Sloane leaned against a pillar, her perfect posture crumbling. For once, the spotlight burned instead of blessed. I didn't need to watch the fallout to know it had begun. My father's career contacts would soon learn about the HELOC loan gone bad. My mother would have to explain why her iPad was linked to the anonymous email that almost cost me my job. I hadn't shared those discoveries with anyone yet, but I could anytime I chose. That was the difference now. Power quietly held doesn't have to be flaunted. Dr. Kaplan's words echoed in my head. The strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's indifference. As I walked toward the valet, Sloane caught up with me, heels clicking unevenly. I didn't know about the loan, she said, voice trembling. Or the emails. I swear, Avery, I didn't. I believed her. She was selfish, not strategic. Then learn from it, I said. Start over, but this time without anyone paying your tab. Her lips parted, maybe to apologize, maybe to plead. I didn't wait to hear which. Outside, the night smelled like wet asphalt and garden roses. I handed my ticket to the valet, who brought my old Toyota around, a humble gray Survivor among luxury sedans. I ran my hand across the faded paint, a small smile tugging at my lips. They thought they broke me, I whispered as the engine hummed to life. But all they did was give me proof. The headlights cut through the darkness, scattering the fog ahead. Somewhere behind me, laughter cracked like thin glass. Ahead, San Francisco waited, a city where I could rebuild from the ground up, this time on my own blueprints. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, hit subscribe and share this story, because sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's the first real act of self-respect. The scars they left behind, they become your compass. And the moment you stop begging to be chosen, you start choosing yourself. My name is Avery Hart, and this isn't the end of my story, it's the beginning of everything they never thought I'd build without them.